Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to Kat's Writing and Reading Nook. Today is the reading vlog for Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. This one is a story set in Nigeria, and it's about a girl named Sunny. Now, Sunny is different in many ways, including being born in New York but moving to Nigeria, being albino, which limits her ability to go out into the sun, which is really hard because she's a great athlete, and all of this frustrates her. She feels like she doesn't fit in. And then she talks to a classmate and a friend of his who tell her, yeah, we have magical powers, and so do you. Turns out they're right, and she is extremely powerful, Sunny. So of course she has to learn things like magical history, what her powers are, and how to use them. And it's all really cool, but then the magical authorities are like, hey, can you guys help us track down this serial killer? And by the way, he's more powerful than any of you guys. So no pressure. I'm already really curious. One, because I haven't really read anything set in Nigeria, and I'm really curious about the magic system, the culture, how all of that is going to work within the story, because I grew up on fairy tales and from all over the world, and they all had different flavors based on where they originated from. And so I'm really excited to see what's going on in here. But yeah, I also grew up on Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Walker of Time, more recently Howl's Moving Castle, and I'm seeing a lot of that, the whole learning about magical abilities later on and figuring out how to interact with a whole nother world. And so I am going to go and satiate that curiosity, and I will see y'all in just a little bit. Alright, so chapter 3, and already we've had some things happen. I think we've been introduced to the villain. He's what they call a ritual killer who targets children, of course. And and we've been introduced to the concept of juju and what are called the leopard people. And it's really interesting because at the beginning of each chapter there's a page from, I think they're all from, yeah, from what I think the author wrote herself, fast facts for free agents, basically little tidbits about the world, including the leopard people, essentially the people who can do magic and who are apparently like all over the world, but we don't exactly know like where all, because apparently, according to some of these excerpts, there was this great purge type thing. Like if you've seen Star Wars, think the end of the Clone Wars Jedi purge thing that happened, but they didn't get them all. They're just now more on the fringes of society as opposed to being more front and center. And I apologize for my voice because I have been having a lot of allergies and getting over what may have been the flu. So, there's that. Excuse me. So, I'm going to keep reading, and I will check in with y'all later. Alright, so I'm almost to the first page of chapter 7, and we're not quite halfway through the book yet, but at this point I'm loving this world building. I'm loving that they're digging into how this magical world fits in with the physical world, and they address some things kind of like Percy Jackson. So if you are one of the leopard people, you're either a leopard person or you're a lamb, which is the rest of us people that exist in the world. And if you have a disability like dyslexia or albinism, which I don't know what that's called, a condition of some kind. If you're different as a leopard person, that means you have some sort of powerful magical ability. It's innate. However, you still have a lot to learn, because Sunny didn't know any of this at the beginning of the book, and so she is starting from square one. And I'm finding all of this quite fascinating. The author clearly spent a lot of time on world building, and I really appreciate that. So I'm excited to continue learning about this world, and I'm really wondering when they're going to get their call to action about, I think the guy's name is Black Hat Akoto, or Atoko, something like that. Anyway, he's definitely getting closer, because they've been talking about some of his victims throughout the book. And actually Sunny's family thought that she had been killed when she came back late, like hours late. We all know how parents are when you are not careful about that stuff. So I'm about halfway through, and Sunny's grandmother keeps getting brought up, and we just had a huge new revelation about her. I have some theories on where this fellow is and who he might actually be. And I'm a little worried for our girl here. I'm a little worried, but yeah, she also just like messed up big time. So we'll see where this goes. All right. Intensity in this story, and I wasn't quite prepared for it. So to start us off, 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this book. I really did. Because the characters, the world building, the magic system, it was a lot, but it was a lot. So I went into Akata Witch knowing 2 things. It was fantasy. Okay, 3 things, sorry. It was fantasy, it was YA, and it was set in Nigeria. That's it. That's it. But I loved the characters, and even the ones you only saw for like a scene, like a guy named Junkman. They're all unforgettable. And they all serve their own purpose in the story, and they really fleshed out the magic system, the world, really drew out part of Sunny's character, something, and it was beautiful. And then the world building, like, I didn't know what kind of magic system this was going to be, because I'm really familiar with like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson style stuff. I haven't really done a lot of research into African spirituality, specifically West African. Like I don't know. I've heard the names of some of the deities and all of that, but I really didn't know. And obviously this is a work of fiction that's drawing on inspiration, so it's kind of a debate on how much I actually know. But the magic system was so beautifully intertwined with everything. Like, the descriptions in this book, I've never been to Africa. I've seen some pictures of forests and cities and all of that, but I've never been. I could picture what they were talking about, and it was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And the magic system, like, some of it I was like, oh, like drawing symbols, and some of the charms, juju elements, I was like, oh, okay, like Howl's Moving Castle, not being able to talk about something. Like, this was the leopard people magical world that they were talking about. But it was something. I will never hear the word masquerade without thinking of something completely different from what I from my previous conception, because if you're like me, you grew up with like Mardi Gras, masquerade ball kind of thing. Fan of the opera, you know, but no. If you see masquerade anywhere in this book, be afraid. If a character is about to start a masquerade, like, I didn't know what that was exactly until one of the characters did it on page. It had been mentioned before, but like, I was not prepared. And that's really important. Really important. So, if you really like to explore other types of magic systems than, you know, maybe what you would see in a more European style based book, this is a good one. And I really loved the character arcs that we saw, and especially how they the author handled Sunny's powers, and the fact that, like, she knew something was off before the beginning of the book, and she was surprised and shocked, but like at the same time she was like, well, that kind of makes sense with some of the things I've experienced. And the book takes place over a course of a few months, and so she has a lot of time to train, learn about the world, and even some of the harsh realities of it. So I would say that obviously it's a YA novel, so it's a lot of talk about identity and how that affects you and the people around you. But it also handles murder, like serial killer murder. This isn't just, oh yeah, this guy's dead. It's this person was covered in blood. This person was missing an ear, or their eyes, kind of thing. They don't go into a lot of detail about the victims, but Black Hat Kota, something like that. Yeah, yeah, and you learn how he's connected to Sunny, and you're like, oh my goodness. My theories were wrong, which I'm glad about, but it was still disturbing, and yeah. So for those reasons and some of the more intense parts of the book, I would say definitely 12 to 13 and up. But if you are a huge fan of Percy Jackson, there's a lot of similarities between this book and that series. So please give it a check. If you enjoy it, go pick it up at your local library if you're on the fence. And just know this is a ringing endorsement. With that, let's talk about next week, next Friday, right? So the ball is back in y'all's court. We're gonna have another poll that should be live by the time this video drops, barring any technical difficulties. So choice number 1, let me get that closer. So this is The Country Without Humans by Iwa Tobineko. Probably butchered that, but it is a fascinating read that I found randomly at Barnes & Noble. It is a manga, so graphic novel enthusiasts rejoice. A lonely place, but I am here. She, spelled S-H-I-I, this is the protagonist, is the only human left in a city inhabited by nothing but machines. As she flees through the eerie streets, hunted by the sinister triangle heads, she encounters a golem named Bulb. Can she survive long enough to form a friendship with this strange golem, and perhaps even discover what happened to her fellow humans? Maybe. And then second choice is Dracula, and you're thinking, didn't we just have Dracula in the last poll? Yes, we did, but he must return. So Dracula, you've heard of him in pop culture. If you're in the West, you've heard of Dracula. Just not even a given. It's just a given. But this is his origin story. Really, no, it's really more centered around the team that comes together to stop him. Set in the 1890s. Excuse me. You have a group of heroes, some of them more likely than others, coming together to stop this vampire from vampirizing across the globe. they have to chase him across a couple continents and deal with traps and tricks and minions and keep from getting vampirized themselves. All leading up to a very satisfying climax. So, if you're interested in either one of these books, please check the link in the description for the poll. Even if you're not sure which one you'd rather have, or if you're like, both of them sound interesting, just eeny, meeny, miny, moe it if you have to. I want to know what would be most interesting to everyone, and just know it's not the end of either one. Dracula came up in the first poll. He lost to Howl's Moving Castle, which was a fantastic book, by the way. You should go check that video out. But they will come back, and they may not even be polled. I may just go, let's just throw this one out to there. But I will see you guys next week in the next video. Have a good evening.